Well, what we wanted to do for the next little while is to spend some time on aloe vera, which of course is a major part of our product line, both in the topical products, the aloe vera drink, and in another form, which is in dried aloe in caplets called aloe mannan. After I sold my interest in the laboratory, I opened a management consulting office, and the first assignment I got was a man walked into my office and said he was president of a network marketing company that sold aloe vera products. They had a skincare line and they had a drink. And he said, I've just filed for Chapter 11. I need somebody to come in and reorganize the company and get it back in the black for the sake of the stockholders and the distributors. But during that time, I talked to the distributors and learned about this strange tropical plant called aloe vera. The things that I heard were just amazing to me. Now, that drawing, of course, is a symbol of aloe vera, but this is what the plant looks, and you've probably seen them in the field. But in the next slide, some of the things that I was hearing from these distributors was that it was used as a moisturizer for minor burns, cuts, scrapes, bruises, itching, scars. Even the United States Atomic Energy Commission, perhaps you may be too young to remember when they built these bomb shelters in the backyard, afraid of atomic bombs. And the Atomic Energy Commission did a study as what would be the best product to store in the bomb shelters in case you were exposed to radiation. And they came up with aloe vera. So there was that much legitimate recognition of the power of aloe vera. And the next slide is among the reports that I heard, particularly coming out of South Texas, where the plant grows in your backyard. These people were taking it for upset stomach. It soothed and discomfort heartburn, you know, the esophageal reflux that burns your esophagus. It did a lot better job than Tums or some of those alkalinizing products. I heard these stories. I developed a real curiosity about why, if I go to the doctor and I've got a burn, why doesn't he recommend one of the best things in the world, aloe vera, an aloe vera gel, to treat that burn? The fact was, there was no nationally advertised product that contained aloe vera as an ingredient. This is the early 70s. The medical profession certainly didn't accept it. Even the veterinary profession or the dental profession, nobody accepted aloe vera. I remember one of our distributors was a pharmacist from Alabama. I asked him one day, why did you sell your pharmacy and come into this business as a distributor? And he said, because I can do things with aloe vera that I can't do with anything in my drugstore. So the benefits of aloe vera became very clear to me, that it was unique and it had to be made available. Now, question, why weren't the pharmaceutical companies, after all, you walk into a nursery and you say, what's that funny looking plant there? And the clerk says, that's a medicine plant. Well, you'd think that the pharmaceutical industry would possibly consider doing research on the medicine plant. But the reason they didn't was because they assumed that it was natural and they couldn't patent it. So if they did all the work and spent millions of dollars doing the development work, then they'd have competition immediately. So they don't bother with that kind of a product. Well, my interest was in helping people, and I ignored that commercial attitude and said, we've got to get this legitimized and accepted. And so I did form an aloe vera company. We had the products in the skincare and the aloe vera drink. We put in our own farms down in the valley. In the next slide, you see a rather typical aloe vera farm, and that's me and my wife, Kathy. In the 1980s, they had what they called a 100-year freeze. And it wiped out about 60–70% of the fields. And it took 6 to 9 months to get them back again. And lo and behold, still in the 80s, there was a second so-called 100-year freeze, and it wiped it out. So I hired a consultant to find a place where we could put in our farm and never freeze. And we ended up later on in northwestern Costa Rica. He recommended that area, and Kathy and I went down there and we picked the spot, 400 acres, and we said, let's plan to put the plant right here where the leaves are. And so that was the result of that. But basically, we would clean the leaves with, as you can see, the technicians there cutting the skin off. In the next slide, it shows that the inner aloe gel is what we made into our drink, which we call True Aloe. And the aloe skin is removed, as you saw the technician removing it. And then the aloe gel is washed to remove all of the yellow sap, which is a bowel irritant, actually. And it was used in the pharmaceutical industry as a laxative. And then the next slide, you see the aloe gel. That's the inner portion of the aloe vera leaf, and you see the fibers in it, and that's what we work with till this very day. And all the research was done on that product. If you hear people in the aloe vera business talking about whole leaf, you save money if you throw the whole leaf into a big grinder and grind it up, but then you've got all this stringy skin, and then you've got the yellow sap, which is extremely bitter and has to be removed because it is toxic and it tastes terrible. And so by the time you remove that, you have to pass it through 2 different filters. Well, by the time you pass it through 2 different filters, you've removed most of the active ingredients in the aloe vera. So if you ever were to buy a bottle of aloe vera in a store, if it says whole leaf, don't buy it. It's an inferior product. What we did with this AvaCare company is, in order to go through the research process and discover the active ingredient, we had to build our own research laboratory. Now, why do you go to all that trouble? I mean, aloe vera is aloe vera. It's got everything in it. The reason you go to that trouble is because in order to get it approved for healthcare professionals by the FDA, you can go to them with a juice, a natural juice, that cures the common cold, and they'll pay absolutely no attention to it because they want to know which molecule in this juice does the healing. Then you can measure the dosage, and it does make sense. But we knew from our laboratory experience that we had to go through that process. So what we did was we used the profits from the aloe vera skincare line to build a research laboratory. And to start the research project, what I did was to go over to the medical school. I knew several of the professors over there from having done the graduate studies. Dr. Anders Goth, head of the pharmacology department, I talked to him about aloe vera, and I said, we'd like to do some studies here at the school. And so he brought in a young man by the name of Dr. Bill McAnally, if you happen to have heard that name. Bill had never done any work with aloe vera, but I talked to him about doing, and we began doing some little studies at the school. I also knew Dr. Ivan Danoff, who was in the physiology department and getting ready to retire, and we met and we talked about what could we do to isolate the active ingredient. And he said, well, what do you hear? What are the testimonials? What do you learn about aloe vera? And I said, well, one of the things that we hear the most of is that aloe vera has healed my stomach ulcer. And so he said, well, I have a test for stomach ulcer medications. So I can test your product against that. And so he did. He took now we're still talking about aloe vera juice. He took the juice, he tested it against the stomach ulcer, came back and said that aloe vera is and this is Dr. Ivan Danoff, not me. He said aloe vera is as good for treating stomach ulcers as any ulcer medication, prescription medication. So that excited us, and we said, we can take that disease and that test and focus on finding the active ingredient. One other test that was a very simple test was called tissue culture. That if you take a petri dish of human cells, or take two dishes of human cells, first the cells will multiply. They'll continue to multiply and replicate. So they're living. And they have nutrients and so forth, everything they need to live. But you add aloe vera to one of those petri dishes, the cells will grow 300% faster. And the cells that you're looking at are called fibroblasts. And the fibroblasts are cells that are throughout your body, of course, but in your skin. Those are the healing structures, like the beams in a building. The fibroblasts are key to the healing process. And so that was a very simple test. In other words, we knew what aloe vera would do. If we could find one ingredient out of the 100 ingredients in aloe vera that did the same as aloe vera, then we would have discovered the active ingredient. So what we did was I hired Dr. Ivan Danoff. As I say, he was getting ready to retire, and I hired Dr. Bill McAnally away from the medical school, and some technicians, and then a young man came to us, fortunately, who had recently gotten his PhD, Dr. Alexis Eberendu. You might know him as well. Dr. Eberendu was part of the teams. We had 2 PhDs and an MD, and we had a small laboratory over on Irving Boulevard. And they began work. And what I asked them to do, our goal is to discover the active ingredient in aloe vera so we can go to the FDA and get it approved. And so it took years to do it and millions of dollars to do that. One day they came into my office with this dish of white powder, and they said, "Mr. Howard, this is it." And I said, "What is it?" And he said it was a beta-1,4-acetylated mannan, or a mannan polysaccharide, a sugar. And I sat down and wrote a letter to the AMA nomenclature committee, and they asked them to name it, and they named it Ace Mannan. They're the ones that classified it as a new drug. Then we began to do research on what is this drug and what does it do. And we did work at the medical school, we did work at A&M, we did work at different locations. But in the meantime, just prior to their actual discovery, I suggested to Bill McAnally that we go and I would introduce him to Dr. McDaniel. We took our aloe vera and began to tell him the story, and he was very skeptical, appropriately. As he should be, as all doctors should be. But you can correct me if I don't say this right, Reg, but my recollection at least was we left him with the aloe vera, and he had been on a choral tour for the Rotary Club in Europe, and he had picked up a bronchitis. And unbeknownst to us, he began drinking this himself as a good scientist. We're always the first guinea pig. And he began drinking it, and he cleared up his bronchitis. And then he stopped taking it, and the bronchitis came back. And then he began to get interested, because then he took the aloe vera and it went away again. And so Dr. McDaniel was doing research, I think, if I remember this correctly, on an autoimmune technique to treat cancer tumors, particularly these Kaposi sarcomas on AIDS patients. And so he had some patients. So he began giving those patients the aloe vera drink. And lo and behold, they began getting better. And he began telling us about, he said, this one was bedridden, couldn't work, is now up and walking around and actually going back to work. So there's some incredible stories that he was telling us. We took the powder over to Dr. McDaniel, and he began using it on these AIDS patients. So that was a very important part of it, because we're not dealing with laboratory rats, we're dealing with human beings. Some of the things that we found in aloe vera is, number one, it regulates the immune function. It's not, the technical explanation is, as I understand it, is it doesn't stimulate the immune system, it regulates the immune system. So if the immune system is already too stimulated, it brings it back to normal, or if it's understimulated, it brings it back to normal. And if you forget everything else we say today, just remember that one thing: it regulates the immune function. Among other things that it has been shown in published articles, it normalizes bacterial flora in the intestines. We know that it soothes gastric hyperacidity, the reflux, without alkalinizing. It accelerates healings, burns, cuts when applied topically. The most simplified version you'll ever hear about how the immune system works is that the immune system is made up of white blood cells. The M cell is the large cell that looks constantly, travels throughout your entire body, and constantly looks for disease organisms, be it bacteria, be it virus, be it fungus, or be it one of your cells has turned cancerous. The T cells, beta cells, killer cells, suppressor cells are also white blood cells, and they're the army. That's the immune army that they all have different functions in fighting diseases. When the macrophage has found a virus, a bacteria, a cancer cell, what it does, it incorporates that virus or bacteria, brings it into the cell, and creates chemicals that destroy that virus. In addition to that, it sends chemical signals back to the army to do their job, and they come rushing to that infection. Now, this may be as simple as a sticker in your finger, or it may be a tuberculosis organism in your lungs. Whatever it is, the army comes and attacks it. And hopefully, if you're in good health and your immune system is in good health and functioning properly, the likelihood is good that the tuberculosis organism will be destroyed, and you'll never know that you were even exposed to it, and you won't catch tuberculosis. That's the way the immune system is supposed to work, and fortunately it does work that way. And all of us in health-related businesses recognize that the better our health, the more likely it is that we're able to fight off diseases. In '90, I left Carrington to younger executives. We had been fighting with the FDA for about 16 years by that time. I left the company and retired. I was 62 years of age. I thought I was retiring. But I'd walk into a health food store and I'd see the aloe vera products there, or the grocery store or a drugstore. And we had in our laboratory tested about 20 different brands. And they would say on the label 98% aloe vera. We knew from our tests there were maybe 5 or 10% aloe vera. And what I felt was that the process of getting it legitimized and into professional health care was on the way. Carrington was continuing that process. And by the way, AvaCare became Carrington Laboratories, same company. We just changed the name. That was being taken care of, but the public was not being served with a high-quality aloe vera. So in 1991, after 6 full months of retirement, I started this company to market consumer products based on the proven benefits of aloe vera to support immune system cells. And we have the tablet, as I mentioned, or the liquid to support the immune system, as a hydrogel for minor burns, abrasions, insect bites, skin moisturizer, and shampoos to stimulate hair follicles. I have kind of oily hair, so I have to shampoo virtually every day, and for 20 years I've used just the drink, the aloe gel, as the conditioner and left it in the hair. Don't rinse it out. Now, my wife tells me that women have too much hair that it won't work, but it works on men. Taken internally as a liquid to soothe gastric discomfort, all of the aloe vera at RBC is certified organic by the International Aloe Science Council. And the end products of our aloe vera products include the moisturizer, and then aloe mannan, as I mentioned, is the dried powder. It's simply evaporated. Aloe jelly is a great aftershave product for burns. If you keep it in the kitchen or the bathroom, anybody get insect bites or burns, it's the best thing to put it on. But the thing I caution you is to be sure you're covering every area of the body that's been burned, because we've had many cases where they were burned on the hand, for example, and they put the aloe like this and wake up the next morning, you can't even see that it was burned, but between the fingers is the burn, because they didn't think to put it between the fingers. And then the drink, of course, in 3 flavors, the aloe drink, which a lot of us drink an ounce or 2 every day. The process for making the Ace Mannan product turned out to be a simple ethyl alcohol precipitation. Many extracts from plants are extracted simply by adding alcohol to them, and that's the main step in making Ace Mannan. And if you add alcohol to aloe vera in a flask, the Ace Mannan will precipitate to the bottom. Then you get rid of all of the alcohol, and you've got maybe a 90% pure Ace Mannan. That can then be dried and used as an injectable. We got it approved to treat cancerous tumors, sarcoid tumors in small animals. It was approved, it's been approved for 15 years now, I guess. And they go right into the tumor with the injectable Ace Mannan, and it eats the tumor away from the middle. You can do slides on it and literally show that. We got it approved as an additive to poultry vaccines, because the moment that chickens are hatched, they are vaccinated against 4 or 5 viral diseases, and they found that Ace Mannan added to the vaccine enhanced the protection, and they're protected earlier than they were otherwise. It's been approved to treat aphthous ulcers, but the unfortunate thing is that it never went the full way. Now, the average cost to take a drug from the laboratory all the way to the pharmacy and for sale, the average cost today is $800 million, and the time is 10 years. So that's the system that the FDA has developed over the years. The Carrington Laboratories was never able to do that. Well, I mentioned that we went to Costa Rica to find a place that would never freeze. And we found an excellent place. We bought the 400 acres. The plan was, and this was about the time I was getting ready to leave, the plan was to put the factory there, and subsequent to my departure, they did that. And they had this beautiful factory and these excellent high quality, high yield leaves growing in Costa Rica. But they were anticipating getting approvals because of all these marvelous stories. The FDA had told Reg and us that they would have expedited treatment of any drug that looked like it might help with AIDS. And of course, there was no expedited treatment. They wouldn't even help on the cost of developing human clinical studies. But the factory was able to produce so much Ace Mannan, far more than the company could sell for poultry vaccines or veterinary uses, that they did a very smart thing. They said, look, we'll take the Ace Mannan that we're making and we'll put some of the things back into it that we've taken out of it. Because when you put alcohol with aloe vera, everything that's soluble in alcohol goes into the alcohol. So you lose some of the beneficial ingredients in aloe. For example, malic acid is a good detoxifier, and it's lost. Production from that plant was so great they had to do something. So they took the ace mannan and added some back to it, and they called it Manipole. And then a couple of years after I left, Bill McAnally left at Carrington, and Reg made a connection with Sam Castor, and you all know the story from there of Manipole. But that's how Manipole came to be. It was because they had excess capacity, and Ace Mannan has never developed the true market that it should have. But remember this, there's nothing in Manipole, there's nothing in Ace Mannan that isn't right here. Because in order to make Manipole or to make Ace Mannan, they don't add something else from some other source. It's all, whatever's in that aloe vera plant is what's in those products. And so you don't have to go through the expense of an alcohol precipitation to make these products. So obviously these products are far, far less expensive than if they were Manipole products. Thank you. Thank you.